hello. Hello. Yeah. I hope you're having a good day so far. I hope all is going well. I pray that is what is happening. That you woke up today with a smile on your face. And if you didn't, I pray that it turns into a smile by the end of the day. That like you end up seeing your successes. That you end up seeing your perseverance. Yeah. Because you've made it to today. Like, obviously you persevered through some stuff, okay? So, that's my prayer for you. That's my prayer for us. That's my prayer for me, really. Okay. In Jesus' name, I pray. We are going to do some more of Joshua reading, and it's just Joshua 9 through 12, and then we're going to go into Psalm 67, right? There was no devotional video, so nothing's in the links or in the descriptions, none of that. We're just going to go straight into the reading, breeze through, and, maybe have a good time. The Gibeonites deceive Israel. Now all the kings west of the Jordan River heard about what had happened. These were the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who lived in the hill country in the western foothills and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea as far north as the Lebanon Mountains. These kings combined their armies to fight as one against Joshua and the Israelites. But when the people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to deception to save themselves. They sent ambassadors to Joshua, loading their donkeys with weathered sandal bags and old parched wineskins. They put on patched wineskins. They put on worn out patched sandals and ragged clothes, and the bread they took with them was dry and moldy. When they arrived at the camp of Israel at Gilgal, they told Joshua that the men of Israel, "We have come from a distant land to ask you to make a peace treaty with us." The Israelites replied to these Hivites, "How do we know you don't live nearby? For if you do, we cannot make a treaty with you." They replied, "We are your servants." "But who are you?" Joshua demanded. "Where did you come from?" They answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country. We have heard of the might of the Lord your God and of all he did in Egypt. We have also heard what he did to the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, King Sihon and Heshbon, and King Og of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth. So our elders and all our people instructed us, take supplies for a long journey, go meet with the people of Israel and tell them, we are your servants, please make a treaty with us. This bread was hot from the ovens when we left our homes, but now, as you can see, it is dry and moldy. These wineskins were new when we filled them, but now they are old and split open. And our clothing and sandals are worn out from the very long journey. So the Israelites examined their food, but they did not consult the Lord. See, I knew it was going to happen, because if they consulted the Lord, they would have the discernment to know what was what. Then Joshua made a peace treaty with them and guaranteed their safety, and the leaders of the community ratified their agreement with a binding oath. So I'm just gonna start looking up the thing that I need to look up because I keep putting it off. And I said I'm going to do it the next day, but my days are packed, okay? Not packed. But days are distracting. Let's see. God's rules, commands for making peace. And the book of Exodus, yes, there were rules. Do not make a peace treaty with those who live in the land where you are going. They will be a trap to you. That's Exodus 34:12. All right? It said, be careful. Do not make a peace treaty with those who live in the land where you are going. They will trap you. They will trap you. And these are people from the land where they're going. Okay? Said it loud and clear. Loud and clear, be careful. Be careful not to do this. This is said not to Moses, but to the people of Israel as a caution to them when they should enter the land of Canaan and possess it. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land wherever thou goes. Enter into a league and alliance to live friendly and amicably, and support and assist each other against the common enemy, whereas they are to smite the 7 nations and destroy them and show them no mercy. You're supposed to show no mercy, lest it be a snare for a snare in the midst of thee. Lest it be a trap. Be the means of drawing them into the same sinful practices with themselves, especially onto idolatrous ones, and so of bringing ruin and destruction to them. Okay? So that was the command. They're driving out the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites to make room for you. That's what God is doing. He's driving out all of these people. But he says, be careful. Do not make a peace treaty with those who live in the land where you are going. They will trap you, tear down their altars, smash their sacred stones, cut down the poles they use to worship the goddess Asherah. Do not worship any other god. I am a jealous God. In fact, my name is jealous. Ooh, I missed that. In fact, my name is jealous. That's how jealous he is. My God doesn't exist. He doesn't exhibit like a petty jealousy. No, he's jealous for the salvation of your soul. Like, that's... Don't worship other gods. I am the only God. I created this. I did all this work. Why are you out here worshiping people that's going to lead you to death? I just want your safety. So, yeah. Let me pick up my phone so I can get back to reading. Alright. So now, even when they make this contract, they didn't... God sees all and is living with them. But they didn't consult the Lord when they make this contract. So it's like, Joshua, you're to lead these nations. You can't be entering treaties willy-nilly. You don't know these people. So what, you just inspected the bread and the clothes and were like, yeah, this is up to par? That's it? You didn't do any other investigations? You didn't go try to scout out the land? You didn't do nothing else? Come on. At the very least, you could have offered up some prayer over the situation and reached out to the Lord and been like, these people, brought them to the front of the tabernacle and these people want to enter into the treaty with all of Israel. Let me try to calm myself because I'm bothered. I am bothered. Let me try to comfort. Let me just try to calm down. It's like they just didn't learn, though. They didn't learn of all the times that they've been deceived, or all the times that they've tried to progress and gain something on their own and been defeated. It's like, come on. Alright, so they examined the food and did not consult the Lord, right? That's their flaw right there. Well, damn, that's your flaw right there. That tells it all. Like, what success do you think you'll gain from this situation without consulting God? Then Joshua made a peace treaty with them and guaranteed their safety, and the leaders of the community ratified their agreement with a binding oath. 3 days after making the treaty, they learned that these people actually lived nearby. Wow. The Israelites set out at once to investigate and reached their towns in 3 days. Their names of the names of these towns were Gibeon, Kiev, Farai, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack the towns, for the Israelite leaders had made a vow to them in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. The people of Israel grumbled against their leaders because of the treaty, but the leaders replied, "Since we have sworn an oath in the presence of the Lord, the God of Israel, we cannot touch them. This is what we must do. We must let them live, for divine anger will come upon us if we broke our oath. Let them live." So they made them woodcutters and water carriers for the entire community, as the Israelite leaders directed. Joshua called together the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you lie to us? Why did you say you live in a distant land when you live right here among us? May you be cursed. From now on, you will always be servants who cut wood and carry water for the houses of my God." They replied, "We did it because we, your servants, were clearly told that the Lord your God commanded his servant Moses to give you this entire land and to destroy all the people living in it. So we feared greatly for our lives because of you. And that is why we have done this. Now we are at your mercy. Do to us whatever you think is right." So Joshua did not allow the people of Israel to kill them, but that day he made the Gibeonites the woodcutters and water carriers for the community of Israel and for the altar of the Lord, wherever the Lord would choose to build it. And that is what they do to this day. So not only did you make this treaty, not only did you go into this vow with these people, and you didn't do any investigations, and you didn't pray to the Lord over it, and you didn't even consult the Lord, bring them to the tabernacle. So you made this whole treaty in front of everyone and in God's name without bringing God into it. Like, you stamped God's authority on it without actually asking for God's signature. But then you don't put in any clauses in this vow that would absolve you if you were betrayed. Like, when they made the treaty, when the two scouts made that promise to, what's her name? Reba? Not Reba. Oh my God, this is a country singer. What was her name? The prostitute. Ooh. I'm gonna go back and find it. Whatever. So when the two scouts make that promise to Rahab. Yeah, when the two scouts make that promise to Rahab, they're like, we will hold this promise as long as you don't betray us. You could have added that into your vow, like, yeah, we'll make this treaty with you, and this treaty will stand for as long as everything you spoke is true. If you are from a distant land, you know, like, you could have been like, as long as you're from a distant land, we're good. But let me find out that you are from the nearby towns, that you are from any of these territories. List out, you know, go ahead, fire off your 7 territories that you're about to conquer. Then the wrath will fall twice as hard on you, or something. Like, y'all could have added clauses for safety. Like, I mean, maybe that's just a like lawyery thing to do. But if you enter into a contract, if you enter into a vow, and you know how binding those vows are when you make them in the presence of the Lord, you've heard how binding those vows were. Or you could have made it with the vows and had, like, who else? You could have had a woman do it. Right? You could have had a woman do it, ignorant of her father or her whatever, so that when they finally found out that the vow was made by this woman, they could have been like, oh, nope, the vow holds no strength. I'm not trying to wiggle them out of this, but they just had so many avenues to do this biblically correct, and they did it. They had all of this wisdom with them and all of this discernment with them, and they did it. Like, this is just, how do you deceive the entire nation of Israel when the Lord is with them? How? Somebody give me an answer, because I don't know how this, I'm really trying to see it from Joshua's point of view, but like, how? How do you? It would have took one trip to the tabernacle. Lord, these people call themselves their servants. They call themselves our servants. They say they're from a distant land. They have come to make a treaty with us. Tell me, what should we do with these people? What will you have your servants do? Oh, I don't understand. I was already in a state of confusion before I even started reading today, and now this is just adding to it. Like, give me clarity, Spirit, please give me clarity, because I see nothing but like, I want to say ignorance, but it's not even ignorance, because it was said, be careful, do not make a treaty with those nearby. Like, it said it. He's like, oh no, we come from a far distant land. And you believe them because the bread was moldy and the wineskin was old? Like, this is hurting my head. I'm moving on. I just don't understand. So now these people survived. The problem with these people surviving is that they survived deceptively, first of all. So you know they have a tendency to lie and manipulate and all of that. But these people survived, which means their practices survived in them. Their religious practices survived within them. Their laws, what they know, the knowledge, the information that was meant to be destroyed and sends the evil removed from the land, is now living within them among the Israelites. Okay, that's Joshua 9. We're going to Joshua 10. Israel defeats the southern armies. Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured and completely destroyed Ai and killed its king, just as he had destroyed the town of Jericho and killed its king. He also learned that the Jebusites had made peace with Israel and were now their allies. He and his people became very afraid when they heard all of this, because Gibeon was a large town, as large as the royal cities and larger than Ai, and the Gibeonite men were strong warriors. So King Adonizedek of Jerusalem sent messengers to several other kings: Hoham of Hebron, Piram of Jarmuth, uh, Japhia of Lachish, and Debrir of Eglon. Yeah. Come and help me destroy Gibeon, he urged them, for they have made peace with Joshua and the people of Israel. For these 5 Amorite kings combined their armies for a united attack. They moved all their troops into place and attacked Gibeon. The men of Gibeon quickly sent messengers to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. Come at once, save us, help us. For all the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us. So Joshua and his entire army, including the best warriors, left Gilgal and set out for Gibeon. Do not be afraid of them, the Lord said to Joshua, for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand up to you. Joshua traveled all night from Gilgal and took the Amorite armies by surprise. The Lord threw them into a panic, and the Israelites slaughtered great numbers of them in Gibeon. Then the Israelites chased the enemy along the road of Beth Horon, killing them all along the way of Azekah and Makkedah. As the Amorites retreated down the road from Beth Horon, the Lord destroyed them with a terrible hailstorm from heaven that continued until they reached Azekah. The hailstorm killed more of the enemy than the Israelites killed with their sword. Wow. On that day, the Lord gave the Israelites victory over the Amorites. Joshua prayed to the Lord in front of all the people of Israel. He said, "Let the sun stand still over Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Galon." So the sun stood still and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. In this event, not recorded in the book of Jasher, the book of the uprights? Is this event not recorded in the book of Jasher? The sun stayed in the middle of the sky, and it did not set as on a normal day. There has never been a day like this one before or since, when the Lord answered such a prayer. Surely the Lord fought for Israel that day. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to their camp in Gilgal. Joshua kills the 5 southern kings. You know there's a gap in this story. I know there's a gap in the story because there's no telling of God's reaction to the treaty. There's no full description of what Joshua did once he found out he was deceived, after just calling the people and be like, "Why would you lie to us? To save their lives?" Like, I get why they're lying to you. Why would you believe such deception so easily? That's what I don't understand. Discernment, like, always keep your guard up, always. And it said, be careful. Be careful, because it's all just meant to entrap you. And it's just, you know, Joshua kills the southern kings. During the battle, the 5 kings escaped and hid at a cave in Makkedah. When Joshua heard that they hadn't been found, he issued this command: "Cover the opening of the cave with large rocks and place guards at the entrance to keep the kings inside. The rest of you continue chasing the enemy and cut them down from the rear. Don't give them the chance to get back to their towns, for the Lord your God has given you victory over them." So Joshua and the Israelites, sorry, sometimes the words don't come. Like my mind says the words and the mouth does not listen. So Joshua and the Israelite army continued and slaughtered and completely crushed the enemy. They totally wiped out the 5 armies except for a tiny remnant that managed to reach their fortified towns. Then the Israelites returned safely to Joshua in the camp of Makkedah. After that, no one dared to speak even a word against Israel. Then Joshua said, "Remove the rocks covering the opening of the cave and bring the 5 kings to me." So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they brought them out, Joshua told the commanders of his army, "Come and put your feet on the kings' necks," and they did as they were told. "Don't ever be afraid or discouraged," Joshua told his men. "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord is going to do this to all of your enemies, except for the ones you make treaties with." Then Joshua killed each of the 5 kings and impaled them on 5 sharpened poles, where they were hung until evening. As the sun was going down, Joshua gave instructions for the bodies of the kings to be taken down from the poles and thrown into the cave where they had been hiding. Then they covered the cave opening with a pile of large rocks, which remains to this very day. Israel destroys the southern towns. The same day, Joshua captured and destroyed the town of Makkedah. He killed everyone in it, including the king, leaving no survivors. He destroyed them all, and he killed the king of Makkedah as he had killed the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and the Israelites went to Libnah and attacked it. There too the Lord gave them the town and its king. He killed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. Then Joshua killed the king of Libnah as he had killed the king of Jericho. From Libnah, Joshua and the Israelites went to Lachish and attacked it. They went to Lachish and attacked it. Here again, the Lord gave them Lachish. Joshua took it on the 2nd day and killed everyone in it, just as he had done in Libnah. During the attack on Lachish, King Horam of Gezer arrived with his army to help defend the town, but Joshua's men killed him and his army, leaving no survivors. Then Joshua and the Israelite army went to Eglon and attacked it. They captured it that day and killed everyone in it. He completely destroyed everyone, just as he had done in Lachish. From Eglon, Joshua and the Israelite army went up to Hebron and attacked it. They captured the town and killed everyone in it, including its king, leaving no survivors. They did the same thing to all its surrounding villages, and just as he had done at Eglon, he completely destroyed the entire population. Then Joshua and the Israelites turned back and attacked Debir. He captured the town, its kings, and all its surrounding villages. He completely destroyed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. He did to Debir and its king just what he had done to Hebron and to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered the whole region, the kings and people of the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes. He completely destroyed everyone in the land, leaving no survivors, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua slaughtered them from Kadesh Bani to Gaza, and from the region around the town to Goshen up to Gibeon. Joshua conquered all of these kings and their lands in a single campaign, for the Lord, the God of Israel, was fighting for his people. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to the camp at Gilgal. I'm disappointed by this treaty. Like, it's still weighing on my mind. Because it just proved that the decision made by Joshua and the other leaders, they were able to see this decision, not think of the in total some weight of this, the importance of this decision, and then to proceed to make that decision without inviting God into it. So that's just like, oh, that's so disappointing. It's so disappointing because, one, it was a hasty decision. It was an ill-informed decision. It was a decision made without discernment. It took them 3 days to learn the truth. So why did you have to make that treaty right away? You could have very well said, like, okay, we will hold you near camp right now, and then we will ponder. Like, you could have bought yourself time to think over the treaty. It didn't need to happen in a whatever. But like 3 days after you found out, you could have sent out scouts to go scout the land and survey and make sure these people didn't come from nearby. There were so many other options, and I just don't see how the whole leader, when touched, filled with spirit, could make such an ill-informed decision. Because now you got to think about the repercussions, right? It's the Israelites are held to this covenant. It's the Israelites and all the foreigners living among them. So they've taken this subset of people and they've allowed them to live amongst them without consecrating them, without it's like watching a fracture. It's like watching something so beautiful be trying to like form together, and then watching someone make a mistake is irreversible. That's going to ruin the whole thing. Like, I'm a chef, so the biggest metaphor I can go is like, it's watching someone put burnt garlic into a recipe, like a whole bunch of burnt garlic into a dish, thinking it'll be fine and it'll mellow out, but you cannot undo the flavor of burnt garlic in the dish, no matter how well prepared it is, no matter what the instructions are, and then not tasting the dish, not tasting it until you serve it, because then you would have tasted the harshness of this burnt garlic. That's what this treaty that they entered in. It's just like, I can taste the flavor of burnt garlic permeating my mouth entirely. Like, just so now in my head, I'm just gonna equate the Gibeonites to burnt garlic because it's just unsavory. They've allowed an unsavory flavor to enter into the fold of Israel. Okay. Israel defeats the northern armies. When King Jabin of Hazor heard what had happened, he sent messengers to the following kings: King Jobah of Madon, the king of Shimron, the king of Ashaph, all the kings of the northern hill country, the kings in the Jordan Valley south of Galilee, the kings of the Galilean foothills, the kings of Nephoth, Dor of the west, the kings of Canaan, both east and west, the kings of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivites in the towns on the slopes of Mount Haran in the land of Mizpah. All these kings came out to fight. Their combined armies formed a vast horde, all with their own horses and chariots. They covered the landscape like the sand on the seashore. The kings joined forces and established their camp around the water near Merom to fight against Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them. By this time tomorrow I will hand them all over to Israel as dead men. Then you must cripple their horses and burn their chariots." So Joshua and all his fighting men traveled to the water near Merom and attacked suddenly. And the Lord gave them victory over their enemies. The Israelites chased them as far as Greater Shidon and Misrephoth Maim. Misrephoth Maim. And eastward into the valley of Mizpah, until not one enemy warrior was left alive. Then Joshua crippled the horses and burned all the chariots as the Lord had instructed. Joshua then turned back and captured Hazor and killed its king. Hazor had one time been the capital of all these kingdoms. The Israelites completely destroyed every living thing in the city, leaving no survivors. Not a single person was spared, and then Joshua burned the city. Joshua slaughtered all the other kings and their people, completely destroying them, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. But the Israelites did not burn any of the towns built on mounds except Hazor, which Joshua burned. And the Israelites took all the plunder and livestock of the ravaged towns for themselves, but they killed all the people, leaving no survivors. As the Lord had commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did as he was told, carefully obeying all the commands that the Lord had given to Moses. So Joshua conquered the entire region, the hill country, the entire Negev, the whole area around the town of Goshen, the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountains of Israel, the Galilean foothills, all of it. The Israelite territory now extended all the way from Mount Halakah, which leads up to Sur in the south, as far north as Balgad, at the foot of Mount Hermon, in the valley of Laban. Joshua killed all the kings of those territories, waging war for a long time to accomplish this. No one in this region made peace with the Israelites except the Hivites of Gibeon. All the others were defeated, for the Lord hardened their hearts and caused them to fight against the Israelites. So they were completely destroyed without mercy, as the Lord had commanded Moses. During this period, Joshua destroyed all the descendants of Anak, who lived in the hill country of Hebron, Dibra, Anab, and the entire hill country of Judah and Israel. He killed them all and completely destroyed their towns. None of the descendants of Anak were left in the lands of Israel, though some still remained in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. So Joshua took control of the entire land, just as the Lord had instructed Moses. He gave it to the people of Israel as their special possession, dividing the land among the tribes. So the land finally had rest from war. And Joshua 12, kings defeated east of the Jordan. These are the kings east of the Jordan River who had been killed by the Israelites and whose land was taken. Their territory extended from Arnon George to Mount Hermon and included all the land east of the Jordan Valley. King Shion of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, was defeated. His kingdom included Aroer on the edge of the Arnon Gorge and extended from the middle of the Arnon Gorge to the Jabbok River, which serves as a border for the Ammonites. This territory included the southern half of the territory of Gilead. Shion also controlled the Jordan Valley and regions of the east, from as far as the North Sea of Galilee to as far south as the Dead Sea, including the road of Beth Jeshimoth and southward to the slopes of Pisgah. King Og of Bashan, the last of the Raphaites, lived at Ashtaroth and Edrei. He ruled a territory stretching from Mount Hermon to Salcah in the north and to all the Bashan in the east, and westward to the borders of the kingdoms of Gesher and Makkah. These territories included the northern half of Gilead, as far as the boundary of King Shion of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites had destroyed the people of King Shion and King Og, and Moses gave their land as a possession to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. Kings defeated west of the Jordan. The following is a list of the kings that Joshua and the Israelite armies defeated on the west side of the Jordan, from Baal-Gad in the valley of Laban to Mount Halak, which leads up to Seir. Joshua gave this land to the tribes of Israel as their possession, including the hill country, the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountain slopes, the Judean wilderness, and the Negev. The people who lived there in this region were the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. These were the kings Israel defeated. The king of Jericho, the king of Ai near Bethel, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, the king of Gezer, the king of Debir, the king of Jadir, the king of Hormah, the king of Arad, the king of Libnah, the king of Adullam, the king of Makkedek, the king of Bethel, the king of Tapua, the king of Hepher, the king of Aphek, the king of Lasharon, the king of Madan, the king of Hazor, the king of Sharon, the king of Akashif, the king of Tanath, the king of Megiddo, the king of Kadesh, the king of Jokneam in Carmel, the king of Dor in the town of Naphath Dor, the king of Goyim in Gilgal, the king of Tirzah. In all, 31 kings were defeated. That's conquering. That's conquest. We are in Psalms 46. Psalm 67. Consequences for breaking a vow. That's what I want to know right now. I know it was death, right? Consequences. It's written somewhere that we've read already. I just wanted to read over that. Let's see. Was it Numbers? Leviticus. It's in Leviticus somewhere. Leviticus 27, 1 through 30. Leviticus 27. I'm just gonna jump over there real quick and see if I can get a quick refresher. Leviticus 27. Nope. Okay. I know a man should never break a vow no matter what the excuse is. And when the vow is made, you have to be like you make a vow and you pursue that vow. Like, you try to fulfill that vow as quickly as possible. There's an urgency to it. And breaking a vow is like the same with deception or lies. And I think it's once you pay a vow, the consequences of breaking a vow. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. do I need? I need the concordance. Strong concordance. Thank you. All right. Not gonna waste too much time. Yeah, so let's go back on track. There's something I wanted to remind myself of because I couldn't remember, but it's giving me more of an issue than I thought it would to find it. We're gonna go to Psalm 67 for the choir director, a psalm of David, a song to be accompanied by stringed instruments. May God be merciful and bless us. May his face smile with favor on us. May your ways be known. May your ways be known throughout the earth, your saving power among people everywhere. May the nations praise you, O God. Yes, may all the nations praise you. Let the whole world sing for joy because you govern the nations with justice and guide the people of the whole world. May the nations praise you, O God. Yes, may all the nations praise you. Then the earth will yield its harvest, and God, our God, will richly bless us. Yes, God will bless us, and people all over the world will fear him. I'm gonna just spend some time. I'm gonna meditate on this disappointment I'm feeling with Joshua and Israelite leaders over this treaty that they entered, and I'm just gonna really pick at that because that decision is not like they lack knowledge on whether or not to enter a treaty. They did say, "How do we know you're not from here?" You know, there was a bit of caution, but it wasn't enough caution to back up that decision. So it was to back up them making the best decision for them. I was gonna say the right decision, but making the best decision for them. So I just feel like if I were to like really meditate on it and think about that whole decision making process, at least as told in Joshua alone, I feel like there's going to be more information that like that like enlightens us later down the road on how this came to pass, or what some of the reactions were after it came to pass, or how they came to find out that the Gideons had deceived them. But as it's told in Joshua, it's just like that one sentence alone, but they didn't consult God, they didn't consult the Lord, was enough to explain how they're going to get themselves in this predicament. And it's something to like, wow, that's going to be an issue. Like, we'll see how that issue further plays out. But in that moment, like, I want to think about the decision-making process you have to go through when you're not, when you take God out of it, and how you can be more aware in your day-to-day to make a decision to process because when you're making decisions, you have to process a bit of information, right? Because you're always trying to seek the best outcome for yourself. And in making the going through that process, and in making those decisions, you want to, it can be overwhelming because you can't see everything from every angle all the time. And there can be a bit of trepidation when you have to make larger decisions and stuff like that. But it's breaking down that like going through the analysis and breaking it down. It reminds me of when or how it feels to make a decision when you're not involving God in it. How does it feel? How do you, like, how is your brain processing it? What kind of weight is on you? What kind of emotional state are you in? How do you know? How can you bring awareness to your decision-making process that, like, pours God in it, you know? Like, is God in there when you're making that decision? That's what I just need to know for myself better processes that I can just ensure a lot of my decisions are made after I've entered God into that situation. Of course, my go-to prayers, a lot of my prayers are like, God, go before me, send your angels before me, send my angels before me, you know, like, God, are you here? Am I making this decision emotionally or whatever? Because you really have to analyze as Christians, am I making this decision emotionally? Am I making this decision because I know, do I know what's right? What's causing me hesitation? Should I bring this to God? In that hesitation, I need clarity. I'm going to bring this to God. Like, you know, there are just many components. We have to make a lot of decisions and all that. So, like, I know there's a lot of decisions that we make that are just on autopilot, which is fine. But I'm saying for those decisions that require true discernment, we are called not to be deceptive people. We're called to be honest, soft-hearted, warm, inviting people. And I'm working very, very hard to not be as detached as I used to be. I'm working very, very hard to let myself remain open to people's presence, to people's engagement in my life. You know, I'm working very, very hard at that because I am a withdrawer. I like to withdraw from people. I like to hide in myself. I like to be gone. I like to not participate. I like to, like, you know, bye. But you can't always do that. So, it's one thing to isolate because you need to spend time with the Lord, but it's another thing to isolate because that's all you know. So, like, I need that discernment. It's the only thing that will make me feel like I'm safe enough to enter and engage in the world. I need that understanding to not be deceived all the time when I'm making decisions. There will be people who are like, yo, I need a decision. I need you to pressure me. Or add a little pressure on it. And unless you've involved God in all of the aspects of what you're doing, or it's a system you already have in place, if you have to make a decision on systems that you already have in place, and you've already entered, God's already been entered into that situation or that system, and it's already got the holy seal of approval, you know, the spiritual seal of approval, then it's fine, and you don't have to worry about that. That is a solid system in your life. But really, it's for those moments where you need to make a decision, and maybe you need to make it semi-quickly. You can't just make those snap decisions unless you have the assurance that you're in spirit and you're hearing the words of God whispering into your life to give you the guidance that you need so that you're in the optimal position for you and your beliefs. How are you pouring integrity into your decision making? How am I pouring God's will into my decision making? And like that just whole process of like, oh, they inspected the food but they didn't consult God, that just unraveled every decision that they made. And like afterwards, and I can only rail against it like this because I'm not there. Like, I see it from 1,000-year-old perspective, you know, like I'm not involved. But should this have taken place in my life, you know, I want to be aware when I'm making those decisions and I'm like, oh, I'm analyzing this and I'm analyzing that. I just don't need any biblical author going behind it. But she didn't consult the Lord. And I just like in my head, feel that like, I would just fall apart. And like, but she didn't consult the Lord. I just need to make sure that's not the case. When I'm making these heavy duty decisions, when there's money on the line, when there's souls on the line, when there's whatever on the line, that I'm gonna shut up now and go. Bye. Yes.